Christine Hassler is the author of 20-something, 20 Everything, a quarter-life woman's guide to balance and direction.
The whole concept of expectation hangover came out of my own in writing the book. That's where the book came from. I was 25, I had the career I thought I wanted, I had the relationship I thought I wanted. Everything was kind of going along this way that I thought that I wanted and that I had planned and worked hard to achieve. But life wasn't turning out like I expected it to. I wasn't fulfilled, I wasn't happy, I was still searching. And I was left with hangover-like symptoms, kind of lethargic and disappointed and confused about where to go. So it was not meeting these expectations that I had set for myself that caused just this overwhelming feeling of disappointment. And a good way to get a reality check is to get yourself involved in something outside of your own life.
Volunteering right now, perfect.
Get involved into a cause, be a little selfless.
Stop the pity party
Stop
again.
the pity party, exactly. And a good way to do that is turn expectation into gratification.
Yeah, you say own your expectations and take action.
Take action, stop thinking when then. When I get the promotion, then I'll be happy. When I lose 20 pounds, then I'll make the cut.
Please welcome our guest, Christine Hassler. She's the author of the new book, The 20-Something Manifesto. Christine, I want to ask you, you're the expert here because you're 30, looking back on your 20s, and this stuff that we all have dealt with, and some of us are still dealing with it. There's this idea of the triangle, the 20-something triangle, and it begins with the point at the top, which is often overlooked, and that is this broad question: who am I? How does one answer that question?
Well, the habit, the way we usually answer that question is we define ourselves by what we do, the roles we play. But what I really had to learn in my 20s, and what I encourage 20-somethings to do, is to ask that question more internally. Who are you? What makes you tick? What do you really love? We skip over that question and go for what do I want? What do I want?
And how do I get what I want?
How do I get what I want? But if you really don't know who you are, this is where I got into trouble. I didn't know who I was, and I was chasing all these things that I thought I wanted, whether it be a career or relationship, but none of them were feeling right to me because I really didn't know who I was. So this self-investigative work is really critical.
We need to sort of keep our minds open to possibilities that maybe don't fit into that box of what we think we want.
Absolutely, because I call the 20s the adultolescence. It's sort of the adolescence of our adulthood. It's very awkward, and you have to be open to possibility, because when you're so tunnel visioned on what you think you want with no life experience to really know, you may end up in a direction that's not right for you and miss out on those opportunities like you're talking about.
Author and motivational speaker Christine Hassler is back with economic advice for Generation Y. Welcome back.
Thank you. Good to see you. Great to see you guys.
So the first tip you've told us is for these kids to get a budget, a real budget.
A real budget, because a lot of young people will say, I'm on a budget, I'm spending less. But what does that really mean? A real budget is a written budget. I recommend a spreadsheet where you're monitoring everything you're spending, all the money that's going out and all the money that's going in. What's your rent? What's your car payment? What's your health insurance? You really got to see how much money you actually are making and how much money you're actually spending. In addition to that, where do you stand financially? How much do you owe? How much do you owe on credit cards? How much do you owe in student loans? Because until you have that reality check and you have it all sitting in front of you, you can't say you're on a budget. It really has to be an active process.
Now, I swear my parents said this to me more than once. Get a job. Any job. Any job at all.
Exactly. Well, now these 20-somethings, they grew up thinking and being told that you have to jump for joy at your career and you have to love it every day, and they're searching for that magical career that's going to really give them a sense of identity and purpose. But right now, get a job. Don't worry if you're not on like some wonderful career path. The whole point is get yourself working, get yourself making money, be a responsible adult, and then that career will eventually unfold. But don't sit in a coffee shop just kind of going,
waiting for inspiration.
yeah, exactly.
And the other one, volunteer and attract abundance to you.
I like that.
I love
nice,
this one, because a lot of times when we're so focused on our lack and how we're struggling, we forget that there are a lot of people who have it a lot worse than we do. And when we go out and we give, we're giving, we're in a state of abundance, and it really puts things in perspective. It can change your whole perspective on your financial situation.
Susie Orman's a big proponent of this next one. Increase your financial IQ. Explain what you mean with
Yes,
that.
increase your financial IQ. This is a great opportunity for 20-somethings. It's a great time to build wonderful financial habits. Look at the kind of books that are out there. Susie Orman is a great one. Young, Fabulous, and Broke is a great book to start with. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Learn about finances. And hey, go to the library and check out a financial book instead of spending it, you know, another thing that's free.
If you have a 20-something at home and you're a parent, how do you nudge them without pushing them towards these goals?
How do you push them gently without giving them a swift kick? Actually encourage them. Get them involved in financial conversations. Say, hey, what is your plan? Do you know your credit score? Let me educate you a little bit on this. You know, my parents didn't do this with me. I'm going to sit down and do it with you. Let's create a plan together, and stop cooking them dinner every night. Stop making their life so easy, you know?
Change the locks.
Well, yeah, that's another option. Growing up, I thought adolescence and puberty was supposed to be the hardest time. At least that's the common thought, that that's really when you struggle and go through your awkward years. And I definitely did. And so when I got to my 20s, I'm like, whew, thank God the adolescence is over. Now I can, you know, have the time of my life and be a 20-something and be like those people on that show Friends and hang out in a loft and go to a coffee shop. And it just wasn't like that for me at all.
So what are you telling parents to do to maybe jumpstart their kids again?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The amount of 20-something people moving home just keeps increasing. So, you know, obviously I'm not the parent of a 20-something person, but being a 20-something person, what I can say to parents is, as much as you want your kid to come home and you want to rescue them and you want to help them out, there has to be that distinction. They're adults now. If they do move home, they should pay rent. There should be boundaries that are established between parent and child. And parents should encourage their children, hey, you know, you don't have to have it all figured out, but you do have to start taking steps. You know, don't expect your first job to be your dream job. Don't expect to be, you know, the president of the company and have your own assistant, you know, by the age of 28. There has to be a work ethic that parents need to teach their children.
When our parents were growing up, success to them was to do better than their parents did. But our parents have been really, really, really successful. And so it's almost harder to achieve the level of status and success and income that our parents have had. We have so many choices that a lot of 20-somethings these days go, how do I decide? How do I pick just one thing? How do I know that's the right thing? So with this infinite possibility comes kind of this contracting experience of, oh my gosh, where do I start? How do I even begin? Because there is so much. The average American by the age of 31 changes jobs 9 times. So the days of, you know, going to work for one company in your 20s and staying there, you know, for 40 or 50 years, those days are long gone. So what you have to focus on is, yeah, I have infinite possibilities. You just have to start somewhere. And one thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. And there really is no direct path, but you can't let this kind of, oh my gosh, there's so many options, paralyze you.
For this book, I researched over 1,000 20-somethings, and I did find that so much of the angst in terms of career pressure really exists in the big cities. New York, Los Angeles, Chicago. However, just the feelings of confusion and anxiety and a sense of lost, that's common all over, not in just the United States, but also abroad. But what I encourage parents of 20-somethings to do with these kids that come back home is set rules. Don't make it the same as it was in high school. Have your child pay rent. Be a landlord more than just a best friend and a parent.
Otherwise, you get into this whole Peter Pan complex, which is one of your next trips, because if you have too many options, life is too easy for you, you're just not going to want to grow up, are you?
You have to kind of float along, and I'm sure we can all relate to, we've learned more from our failures and our moments of just being totally lost and getting ourselves out of those moments on our own. That's where you really build a sense of identity and a sense of confidence, and that enables you to get the career you want and the relationship you want. But you got to do it on your own.
Yeah, you do.
All right, for more information about Christine Hassler and her new book, 20-something Manifesto, go to KTLA.com. Thanks, Christine.
Thank you.